There's distractions, there's chaos, there's negativity. These are all things that make it really difficult to be able to tap in to that light and that divine identity that is within you. I have 3 suggestions that really will help you focus in and find that light next. Hi, I'm Heidi Tucker, award-winning author and speaker. Welcome to the Pickled Sunflower, where we can come together, make a connection, and find some hope. In my most recent book, The Secret Keepers, I wrote the true story about Margie, who is a survivor of horrific trauma and abuse as a child, and how she rises up from those ashes and from that darkness to find light and to find hope in her life. And it's an amazing story, and we can learn so many things from her. This was so significant to be able to focus on her core for Margie in her story. So significant because she lives with DID, dissociative identity disorder. And so she has to be able to focus through all of these parts that have different thoughts and beliefs, and she's able to wade through that and find her true identity that she uses every day to move forward in her life with that true identity out front and in charge. Recently, I was on a podcast where the host and I were both talking about lessons that we could learn from Margie and from her story. We were talking about it specifically, one of the first things that I really take away from her life and from her example, and that is her ability to find and to cling to her core, her true divine identity, the light that is within her. And so as the podcast host and I were bantering kind of back and forth, he said to me, how do you really find that? Because it's really hard for a lot of people. They really struggle to do that. And so I thought for a moment, and I recognized that there are 3 things that I do that really help me recognize that divine identity that is within me. So let's talk about those 3 things. Number 1, for me, what really, really works to center me is to get into the scriptures, regardless of what those are for you. There's the Bible, there's some of you study the Book of Mormon, there's all different references that you can use for your study. But I find as I study those scriptures that I learn more and more just about how much God and Jesus Christ love me. In that, I find that I can tap into an identity with them. That love is unconditional, it is never ending, it is powerful. And so I find myself directly connecting to that higher power that I believe in because of my study. The second way that helps me really focus and tap into that divine identity of mine is a deep, meaningful conversation with God. And I do that generally when I'm out hiking, when I'm out walking. Sometimes I'm in my car, sometimes I'm, in my home. But it's making a special effort to have a real conversation with God. It's not the rote, sort of semi-memorized prayers that we often say when we bless the food, right? When we sort of go through a gratitude list. This is a really heartfelt conversation that I have with God, and that's the kind of space that I'm talking about. As I do that, I find a greater connection to Him, and that just fosters finding that and recognizing that spiritual connection. In that great space of that really deep, meaningful conversation, it's two-way communication, and in that space, we recognize that we have a divine connection to something that's higher and bigger than us. And within that helps me tap into my own divine identity. Number 3 is service. Anytime I'm serving outside of myself, I feel that I am operating by example of a higher power. I feel that. And so that connects me to that divine identity. Anytime that we are following the example of Christ, we are linking ourselves to Him. That's the link to your divine identity. Why should we devote this energy and this time to finding and recognizing that divine identity and that light that is within us? Well, because it has the great potential to do things that are really important. We can make a real difference in the world by linking ourselves to that. It's a tremendous capacity to do good in the world with your light. I hope that you never feel inferior. I hope that you never feel like you are not enough or that you don't matter. The exact opposite is absolutely true. But here's the kicker. It does take some action on our part to feel that and to recognize that. It doesn't always just come when we least expect it, right? There are sometimes we need to act to find that. That is study. That is prayer. That is serve. Those are ways that help me. You may have some other ways that really help you dive in and feel that and recognize that in yourself. Because when we feel that divine identity within ourselves, we behave differently. I believe we live our lives at a higher level when we feel that. I have said this to Margie, who is the subject of The Secret Keepers, her story. I've said this to her, but it applies to every single one of us. What may have happened to you in the past, or what may be happening right now in your life, that may be dark, but you are light. You are light, and you have that within you. You came to this earth with light. It's up to each of us to find that. We'll see you here next time on The Pickled Sunflower.